All right, today we're diving into a really provocative argument from our source material, one that looks at the psychological cost of promiscuity. Now, this is a viewpoint that's definitely meant to push back against some modern ideas, so let's just jump right in and unpack it.
So the source material kicks things off with this line right here. I mean, wow. It's designed to be jarring, to really grab your attention, and it pretty much sets the stage for the entire argument we're about to explore. This is the hook, the whole idea the piece is built around.
So, to really get a handle on this perspective, here's how we're going to break it down. We'll start with that hook we just saw. Then, we'll dig into the core thesis itself. After that, we'll look at the evolutionary reasoning they present, the supposed psychological fallout, and finally, what the source describes as the ultimate consequence, losing the ability to bond.
Okay, first up, the controversial thesis. Let's get right to the heart of what our source is actually claiming here.
And there you have it. The central argument from the source is, point blank, that for women, having a high number of sexual partners leads to what it calls genuine mental damage. It's a very direct, and yeah, a very controversial claim, and pretty much the rest of the material is all about trying to back this idea up.
So a big claim like that needs some kind of justification, right? Well, the source offers a rationale that's rooted in evolutionary biology. Let's take a look at the why behind their argument.
And that really is the million-dollar question, isn't it? An assertion this big has to have some kind of foundation. So what is the reasoning that's actually provided in the text? Okay, so here's the logic the source lays out for us. The whole thing is based on this idea of an evolutionary mismatch. The theory that our modern lives don't always line up with our ancient biology. The source claims that female biology, specifically, just isn't built for a constant cycle of many short-term attachments and breakups. It actually frames this cycle as being inherently stressful, and it suggests that this chronic stress is the real root cause of the mental damage it keeps talking about.
So, if we follow that train of thought from the source, what's the end result? What does this so-called mental damage actually look like according to them?
The source presents this as a really direct chain reaction. It's like a 1-2-3 punch. First comes the behavior, which then leads to this internal psychological state, which then finally shows up as specific, observable, and negative behaviors.
And this slide really puts those two pieces together. On the one hand, you have the internal impact, this genuine mental damage. And on the other, you have an external behavioral outcome. The source specifically draws a line connecting that internal state to increased drinking, framing alcohol use as a way of coping with the underlying stress and trauma of the whole experience.
And that brings us to the final point, which the source presents as the most severe consequence of all. This is really the climax of its entire argument.
Now, to really understand this final outcome, we need to get on the same page about a key term, the pair bond. In the context of our source, this basically means the ability to form a deep, stable, and lasting emotional connection with a single partner. So just keep that definition in your head.
Okay, so here it is, the ultimate point. According to the source, the most damaging consequence of what it calls excessive promiscuity isn't just stress or turning to things like alcohol. It's the breakdown of the very ability to form that deep, long-term partnership. The text suggests that after a certain point, the capacity to pair bond is just gone.
So we've just walked through the whole argument presented in our source material. You've got the provocative hook, the evolutionary reasoning, and this claimed final outcome of losing the ability to form deep bonds. And it all leads to this final really important question for you to think about. In a time when we value and celebrate sexual freedom, how does a perspective like this one fit in? Is it a useful warning, or does it just fundamentally clash with the way we think about freedom today? That's something that's definitely up for debate.